All right, so are you ready to really get into it today? We're going deep into daily routines, those small habits that you do every day
Yeah.
that seriously can change your whole life. You actually sent over this fascinating episode of the podcast, Habits That Stick. And I'm so excited to unpack this with you today. Basically, what we're going to be doing is exploring these little actions, especially when we're thinking about them throughout the day, like how you start your morning, what you do midday, and how you end your evening.
Ooh.
And just seeing how those can really create this ripple effect of positive change.
Yeah.
And get this, we're even going to go into specific techniques like the Pomodoro technique. And even the science behind why 5 minutes of meditation can totally shift your day.
I love this. What I find so fascinating about this is that, a lot of people get really overwhelmed by this idea of a life overhaul, right? I need to change everything.
Yeah.
But the beauty of daily routines is that it's harnessing this power of small, consistent actions. It's not about becoming superhuman overnight. It's about those tiny steps that compound over time. So true. And they use this analogy in the podcast, life as a train and habits as the tracks. So without those tracks, are we just a runaway train?
Ooh, that's good. I love that. That's such a good analogy.
What do you think?
Because it really is without those routines, are we moving, but are we moving with purpose?
Right.
Are we actually getting to where we want to go?
Exactly.
And that's what routines provide for us.
Totally.
It's that structure we need to make sure that our choices are aligned with our values. And it cuts down on decision fatigue, which is so huge.
Oh my gosh.
Which frees up that mental space for the things that truly matter.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's not just about feeling more organized then. Are there actual measurable benefits to having routines?
100%. It's not just this woo-woo feel-good fluff.
Okay, good.
Studies have shown that consistent daily habits can actually reduce stress hormones like cortisol,
Wow.
boost productivity by helping you enter a flow state more easily.
And improve overall well-being. It's like giving your mind and body a roadmap.
Yeah.
It's creating this sense of stability that allows us to really thrive even when things get chaotic.
I love that roadmap idea. It's like having a plan even for those days where everything just feels like it's going sideways. So let's get into some of these habits. The podcast emphasizes starting strong with a really solid morning routine. I'm so curious to see what they actually suggest. I know for me personally, those first few minutes when I wake up really set the tone for the whole day.
Yeah, for sure. It's like priming the pump for a day of success, right? Those first actions can either energize you and put you on this path of intention, or they can leave you feeling sluggish and reactive and constantly playing catch up.
Ugh, I hate those days. So tell me, what are some of those game-changing morning habits they talk about?
One of the most impactful and maybe the hardest one to implement for some people is waking up 30 minutes earlier.
Oh, man.
And this isn't about sleep deprivation. It's about carving out what they call me time before the world's demands come knocking.
Okay, I'll admit, I hit snooze more often than I'd like to confess. But I feel like there's more to this early rising thing than just getting ahead on email. What's the magic of those 30 minutes?
I love that. You're creating space for you.
Okay.
Whether that's, quietly sipping your coffee or reading or meditating or just being present and enjoying the stillness before the day starts.
Yeah.
And that can dramatically reduce your stress and increase your sense of control throughout the day.
All right, no more snooze.
I love it.
The podcast also talks about hydration, something I am definitely guilty of neglecting in favor of that first cup of coffee. So what's the science behind why starting with water is so crucial?
Well, after a night of sleep, your body's naturally dehydrated. So replenishing those fluids first thing in the morning, it's like waking up your cells and boosting your metabolism.
Interesting.
And here's a fascinating fact. Even mild dehydration can impact cognitive function. Studies have shown that it can impair your memory, your attention, and even your mood. So reaching for that water before that coffee is a simple but powerful way to set yourself up for mental clarity and optimal brain function.
Wow, I never realized the impact was that significant. I'm definitely making a mental note to prioritize water from now on. Next up, they mention mindfulness or meditation. Now, I'm not picturing myself in a full lotus pose at dawn or anything like that, but I do like the idea of even just a few minutes of mindfulness. Is it really as life-changing as everyone says it is?
It is, and you don't need to become a meditation guru to reap the benefits. Even 5 minutes of focused breathing or listening to a guided meditation can quiet that mental chatter, center your mind, and reduce stress.
Okay. That sounds pretty doable.
It's all about training your attention, increasing your self-awareness, and cultivating a sense of inner peace.
That sounds wonderful. I'm all about getting my body moving in the morning, so I was thrilled to see the podcast talks about the importance of that morning movement. I know for me, even a quick stretch can make a huge difference in how I feel.
Yeah. Whether it's a brisk walk, some yoga, stretching, or a full-blown workout, morning movement is such a game changer. It boosts circulation, improves your cognitive function, elevates your mood by releasing those endorphins.
Ooh, those endorphins.
And sets this positive tone for the day.
Love it. And last but not least, for their morning routine suggestions, they talk about planning your day. This one really resonates with me. I'm a total to-do list fanatic. But sometimes those lists get a little out of control, so what's their take on effective planning?
They really emphasize the importance of prioritizing your tasks, focusing on those most impactful activities, and setting realistic goals. So instead of getting bogged down by that never-ending to-do list, try identifying your top 3 priorities for the day. This can help you stay focused on what truly matters and prevent that feeling of overwhelm or being scattered.
Ooh, I like that. It's about being intentional with your time and energy. So I'm curious, what's your ideal morning routine? Like, what's the one thing you absolutely swear by to start your day strong?
It's all about quiet time for me. I find that even just 15 minutes of stillness, whether it's reading, meditating, or simply enjoying a cup of tea in silence, really sets this calming and intentional tone for the day. It helps me feel grounded and centered before the demands of the day come knocking.
I love that. It's such a good reminder that even small moments of peace can really make a big impact. All right, so we've mastered the art of the morning routine. What about those dreaded midday slumps? Everyone knows that feeling of hitting a wall in the afternoon. So what are some habits for combating that dreaded energy dip?
Well, the podcast talks about taking regular breaks to combat mental fatigue. And they specifically highlight the Pomodoro technique, which is a time management method that uses a timer to break down work into intervals, traditionally 25 minutes in length, separated by short breaks.
Okay, I think I tried that once, but totally forgot about the timer. So remind me, why does this technique work, especially when it comes to focus?
It's all about working with your natural attention spans. Our brains aren't really wired for sustained focus for hours on end.
Oh, that's so true.
So the Pomodoro technique, it leverages those natural peaks and valleys by giving your brain a chance to rest and recharge at regular intervals. And those short breaks actually enhance focus and prevent burnout when you return to the task.
It's like tricking your brain into staying engaged. You know those breaks are coming, so you push a little harder. Now, besides breaks, they also mention fueling your body properly midday. I like how they go beyond that generic eat healthy advice.
Right. They emphasize choosing foods that provide sustained energy and support mental clarity. It's not just about filling your stomach, it's about fueling your brain and body for peak performance.
So things like lean proteins and complex carbs.
Exactly.
Healthy fats, stuff that gives you energy that lasts instead of that sugar crash.
Yes, exactly, because what you eat directly impacts your energy levels and cognitive function. For example, a lunch filled with refined carbs and sugary drinks, that might give you a temporary boost, but it's quickly followed by a crash that leaves you feeling sluggish and mentally foggy. On the other hand, a meal rich in protein, fiber, and healthy fats provides sustained energy and supports stable blood sugar levels. So you're feeling sharp and focused all afternoon.
That's what we like. Okay, this next one seems simple, but I'm guessing it has a big impact. They talk about stretching or taking a quick walk midday. If I've been chained to my desk for too long, I definitely get that afternoon slump.
Even a 5-minute walk can do wonders. It's not just about preventing physical stiffness, but also boosting circulation and oxygenating your brain.
Great.
Studies have shown that these short bursts of physical activity during the day can significantly improve cognitive function, reduce stress, and enhance creativity.
So it's like a reset button for your mind and body.
Okay.
I can get behind that. Now, this one, I gotta admit, I thought was just like a feel-good thing to talk about refocusing with gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
It always seemed a little too touchy-feely for me, but maybe there's more to it.
It's more than just a feel-good exercise. It's a powerful tool for shifting your perspective and combating negativity bias. You know, when we're stressed or overwhelmed, our brains tend to focus on the negative. So taking a moment to intentionally reflect on the things we're grateful for can interrupt that negative spiral and boost our mood.
So you're intentionally focusing on the good stuff instead of letting the bad stuff take over.
Yeah.
Like a mental palate cleanser. Okay, I'm convinced. Let's shift gears to evening routines for rest and reflection. Even talking about it makes me feel calmer.
Yeah. Evening routines are all about transitioning from that busyness of the day to a state of calm and relaxation, setting the stage for restful sleep and a positive start to the next day.
I like it. One of the first things they mention is the importance of unplugging from screens, at least an hour before bed. I'm so guilty of scrolling mindlessly until I pass out. Why is that so bad for us?
It disrupts our sleep cycle in a big way. That blue light emitted from electronic devices interferes with the production of melatonin, which is the hormone that regulates our sleep. So even though, scrolling through social media or watching TV might feel relaxing,
Yeah.
it's actually signaling to your brain that it's time to be awake,
Wow.
making it harder to fall asleep and achieve that deep, restful sleep.
So even though we think we're winding down,
Yeah.
our brains are actually staying wired. So what are some good alternatives to screen time in the evening that actually promote relaxation and sleep?
The podcast suggests things like reading a physical book, not an e-reader,
Okay.
listening to calming music, taking a warm bath, or engaging in a relaxing conversation with loved ones. It's all about creating a calming environment. That signals to your body and mind that it's time to wind down.
Sending those signals, both internal and external. Now, they also talk about the importance of reflection in the evening and not just thinking about your day. Like, what do they suggest?
They recommend engaging in a more structured reflection practice, like journaling or gratitude exercises. This helps process the day's events, identify areas for growth, and cultivate a sense of appreciation.
So instead of just replaying the day in your head,
Yeah.
you're actually taking the time to process it and learn from it. I can see how that would be helpful. But I admit, I don't always feel like journaling at the end of a long day. Any tips for making it feel less like a chore?
Well, it doesn't have to be a lengthy process. Even just jotting down 3 things you're grateful for, or reflecting on one positive experience from the day can make a difference. And if writing isn't your thing, try a voice recording or simply spending a few minutes in quiet contemplation. The key is to find what works for you and make it a consistent part of your evening routine.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme. Consistency seems to be key. Speaking of consistency, they also mention the importance of preparing for the day ahead in the evening.
Yes, even those seemingly small acts of preparation, like laying out your clothes, packing your bag, reviewing your schedule for the next day, can significantly reduce stress and decision fatigue in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
It's about setting yourself up for success. By minimizing those little decisions and mental hurdles, that can derail your day before it even begins.
I love those little hacks that just make life smoother. The last evening habit they mentioned is maintaining a consistent bedtime. I've definitely noticed that when I go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, my sleep is so much better.
Yeah.
So is there a scientific reason for that?
Absolutely. It's all about working with your body's natural sleep-wake cycle. It's called the circadian rhythm. When we have these irregular sleep patterns, we're essentially fighting against our body's natural rhythms, leading to poorer sleep quality, decreased alertness during the day, and an increased risk of health problems over time.
Yikes. So consistency is key here too. Sticking to a regular sleep schedule helps regulate our internal clock,
Exactly.
which in turn improves our sleep and our overall health. Okay, we have covered so much ground, these morning, midday, and evening habits. It's a lot to take in, but I'm already feeling inspired. But I gotta be honest, the idea of implementing all of these new habits at once feels kind of overwhelming. Any advice on how to get started without feeling like I'm totally upending my life?
Well, that's a great question, and the podcast emphasizes the importance of starting small. Don't try to change everything overnight. That's a recipe for burnout and frustration.
Okay, baby steps.
Exactly.
But how do you pick which habit to start with? Kind of feeling paralyzed by all the options.
Choose the one that resonates with you the most, the one that feels the most exciting, or the most pressing need in your life right now. And remember, you can always add more habits later as you start to feel those initial changes becoming more automatic.
So find that one keystone habit. That'll have a ripple effect.
Exactly.
And once you've got that one locked in, you can move on to the next.
Exactly. Think of it as building a foundation, brick by brick. Each habit that you establish strengthens that foundation, making it easier to build upon it and create lasting change.
I love those building metaphors. They make change feel so much less daunting and more like a creative process. Speaking of creativity, I'm curious about those internal routines that you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
It seems like those are just as important as the external actions we take.
Absolutely. We tend to get so caught up in the external, the doing, that we neglect the internal, the being.
Right.
But our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions have a profound impact on our actions and our overall experience of life.
It's like we're constantly running on autopilot, reacting to external stimuli,
Right.
without ever stopping to question the thoughts and beliefs that are driving those reactions.
Exactly. But what if we could become more aware of those automatic thoughts and start to consciously choose ones that empower us and support our well-being? That's where internal routines come in.
So it's like creating habits for our minds, not just our bodies.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a more positive and supportive inner landscape that will nourish and sustain us, regardless of what's happening in our external world.
Okay, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Tell me more about these internal routines. What are some specific practices that can help us cultivate that inner peace and strength?
Well, there are many different techniques, but some of the most effective ones include affirmations, gratitude practices, mindfulness, meditation, and visualization. Each of these practices work in a slightly different way, but they all share this common goal of training our minds to be more present, more positive, and more resilient.
Okay, let's break those down a bit. Affirmations are basically just positive statements that we repeat to ourselves.
Yeah.
To challenge negative thoughts and kind of reprogram our thinking.
Right.
Like, I am strong, or I am worthy, or I am capable of achieving my goals.
Exactly. It might feel strange at first, like you're just talking to yourself.
Yeah.
But the more you repeat these positive statements, the more they start to seep into your subconscious mind and influence your beliefs. It's like planting seeds of positivity in the garden of your mind.
And over time,
yeah,
those seeds grow into these beautiful, empowering beliefs that shape our reality.
I love that. What about gratitude practices? I know we touched on them briefly when we were talking about morning and evening routines, but how exactly do they work to cultivate a more positive mindset? Gratitude practices are all about shifting our focus from what we lack to what we have, appreciating the abundance in our lives, and acknowledging the good things that we often take for granted.
So it's not about denying or ignoring the challenges we face, but rather choosing to focus on the good, even amidst the difficult.
Exactly.
Creating a more balanced perspective.
Yeah.
What about mindfulness meditation? I know it's become so popular, but I'm still a little fuzzy on what it actually entails.
Mindfulness meditation is the practice of bringing your attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about observing your thoughts, feelings, and sensations as they arise without getting swept away by them.
So it's like hitting the pause button on that constant chatter in our minds.
Yes.
And simply noticing what's happening without labeling it as good or bad or right or wrong.
Exactly. And the more we practice this, the more we develop a sense of spaciousness and awareness. That allows us to respond to life's challenges with more calmness and clarity.
It sounds incredibly empowering, like you're taking back control of your mind instead of being ruled by your emotions. What about visualization? I've heard athletes use this technique to improve their performance, but I'm not sure how it applies to everyday life.
Visualization is about using the power of your imagination to create a mental picture of yourself achieving your goals, experiencing success, and living the life you desire. It's about feeling those emotions associated with those experiences, as if they were happening in the present moment.
So it's not just about daydreaming, you're actually creating a vivid, multisensory experience in your mind that tricks your brain into believing it's real.
Exactly. And the more we engage in this practice, the more we strengthen the neural pathways in our brains that support those goals, making them more likely to manifest in our reality.
So it's like creating a mental blueprint for success. I'm starting to see how all of these internal routines, from affirmations to gratitude practices to mindfulness, meditation to visualization, they can all work together to create a more positive and empowered inner world.
Absolutely. And just like with our external routines, consistency is key with these internal practices. The more we engage with them, the more they become ingrained in our daily lives, and the more profound their impact will be.
It's like building those mental muscles, strengthening our capacity for positivity, resilience, and self-belief. Okay, I am feeling incredibly inspired by all of this, but I have to admit I'm also feeling a little intimidated by the sheer amount of change that we've talked about.
Oh.
Curious, have you ever felt overwhelmed by this whole habit formation thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, have you ever had challenges or setbacks?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm not immune to the challenges of habit formation. In fact, I've probably made every mistake in the book at some point or another.
Okay.
And one of the biggest struggles that I've faced is with consistency.
Yeah, it's that age-old battle between our intentions and our actions. We start out so motivated, so gung-ho, and then life throws us a curveball or we hit a snag, and suddenly those good intentions go out the window.
Exactly. I can be like incredibly enthusiastic about a new habit for a few days, maybe even a week, but then work deadlines pile up. Unexpected events disrupt my routine. Or I simply fall into the trap of those old, comfortable habits.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
So how have you dealt with that challenge of maintaining consistency? What strategies have you found most helpful?
One strategy that's been incredibly helpful for me is habit stacking.
Okay.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's worth reiterating because it's so effective.
It's about linking a new habit to an existing habit, something you already do consistently.
Yes.
Can you give me an example of how you've used this?
Absolutely. For a long time, I really struggled to make meditation a regular part of my routine. I knew all the benefits, I was motivated to do it, but I just couldn't seem to make it stick.
Yeah.
So then I had this idea, what if I stacked it onto my existing habit of brushing my teeth?
Oh, interesting.
Every morning after I brush my teeth, I immediately sit down on my meditation cushion and meditate for 5 minutes.
So you're basically piggybacking on an existing habit that's already ingrained in your routine.
Exactly.
It takes the decision-making out of it. You're already in that autopilot mode.
Huh.
So it's just adding one more step.
Exactly. And over time, that new habit becomes integrated into your existing routine. And it no longer feels like an extra effort. It's simply part of what you do.
It's brilliant. Those neural pathways are already there. So
Yeah.
you're just building upon them. It makes it easier for the new habit to stick.
Yeah.
What other strategies have you found helpful in overcoming those habit formation hurdles?
Another important strategy is setting realistic expectations. It's so easy to get caught up in that all or nothing mentality, especially when it comes to self-improvement. We set these grand, ambitious goals for ourselves, and then when we inevitably fall short, we feel like a failure and we give up entirely.
We're setting ourselves up for disappointment, expecting to go from 0 to 60 overnight.
Exactly.
And then when that doesn't happen, we get discouraged and throw in the towel.
Yeah. So it's about starting small, celebrating those small wins, and acknowledging that progress is a journey, not a destination. It's much more sustainable to make those gradual incremental changes over time than to try to overhaul everything at once.
It's about embracing the process, enjoying the journey,
Yes.
and being patient with ourselves along the way.
Okay, what about setbacks? I know we talked about being kind to ourselves, but sometimes those slip-ups can feel really discouraging. How do you deal with those moments when you fall off track?
I think it's important to remember that setbacks are a normal part of the process. No one is perfect. We're all going to have moments when we slip up or fall back into old patterns. The key is to view those setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and adjust.
So it's about reframing those slip-ups as valuable feedback, a chance to understand our triggers, and develop strategies for overcoming them. Exactly. Don't let a single slip-up derail your entire progress. Just acknowledge it, learn from it, and get back on track as soon as possible. And remember, it's a journey, not a race. There's no finish line when it comes to self-improvement. It's an ongoing process of growth and evolution.
I love that perspective. It takes the pressure off and allows us to approach this whole habit formation thing with a sense of curiosity and playfulness.
Absolutely. It's not about punishing ourselves for our imperfections. It's about celebrating our progress and enjoying the process of becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Love that. Speaking of support, you mentioned earlier the importance of seeking support when needed. Have you found that to be helpful in your own journey of habit formation?
100%. I've been incredibly fortunate to have a supportive partner, family, and friends who encourage me and hold me accountable to my goals.
It's like having your own personal cheering squad, rooting you on, celebrating your victories.
Yes, exactly. And I've also found it helpful to connect with others who are working on similar goals, whether that's through online communities, support groups, or even just casual conversations with friends.
There's something really powerful about sharing our struggles and our triumphs with others who understand what we're going through.
Absolutely. It creates a sense of camaraderie, shared experience, and mutual support. And it reminds us that we're not alone on this journey. We're all in this together, striving to become the best versions of ourselves.
I love that. It's about celebrating our shared humanity, acknowledging that we're all works in progress, constantly evolving and growing.
Beautifully said.
Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to the source material that inspired this deep dive, the podcast Habits That Stick. Is there anything else from that episode that you found particularly insightful or helpful?
One thing that really struck me was the podcast's emphasis on the interconnectedness of our habits.
Okay, tell me more about that. What do they mean by interconnectedness?
Well, they point out that our habits don't exist in isolation. They're all interconnected, forming this complex web. That influences our thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and ultimately our overall well-being.
So it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
One positive habit can trigger a cascade of positive changes
Exactly.
in other areas of our lives.
For example, if you start exercising regularly, you might find that you have more energy, you sleep better, you're more productive at work, you're even in a better mood. And those positive changes can then ripple out into other areas of your life, like your relationships, your creativity, your overall sense of self-worth.
So it's not just about the individual habits themselves, but about the cumulative effect they have
Exactly.
in our lives.
And on the flip side, negative habits can also have a ripple effect, creating a downward spiral of negativity that can be difficult to break free from.
Oh, yeah. So it becomes even more important to be mindful of the habits that we're cultivating, because they have the power to shape our lives in such profound ways.
Absolutely. Our habits are the building blocks of our lives. They determine who we are, what we achieve, and how we experience the world.
That's a powerful reminder.
Oh.
It really puts things into perspective
Right.
and highlights the importance of making conscious choices about the habits that we're forming.
Exactly. It's all about taking ownership of our habits and recognizing that we have the power to choose the ones that serve us and let go of the ones that hold us back.
It's such an empowering message. We're not victims of our circumstances. We have the power to shape our own destiny through the habits that we cultivate.
Beautifully said.
Now, I'm curious, have you ever experienced that ripple effect of positive habits in your own life?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, have you noticed one positive change lead to other positive changes?
Yes. One of the most impactful experiences I had with this was when I started prioritizing sleep.
Okay.
For years, I was chronically sleep deprived, burning the candle at both ends,
Yeah.
and constantly feeling exhausted.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially in today's fast-paced world. It's almost like we wear our busyness and sleep deprivation as a badge of honor.
Exactly. But I finally reached a point where I couldn't ignore the negative impact it was having on my health, my mood, my overall well-being. I was irritable, easily stressed, and constantly battling brain fog.
So you decided to make a change?
I did. I started by implementing a consistent bedtime routine, which included, winding down for an hour before bed, with calming activities like reading or taking a bath.
Nice.
And I made sleep a non-negotiable priority, even if that meant saying no to social events or staying up late to finish work.
Wow, good for you. Now, what was the impact of those changes?
It was transformative. Not only did I start feeling more rested and energized, but I also noticed a significant improvement in my mood, my focus, and even my creativity.
Really?
I was less reactive to stress, more patient with others, and more able to tap into those creative flow states that had been elusive for so long. It was amazing to experience that ripple effect firsthand.
It's such a powerful reminder that even those seemingly small changes, like prioritizing sleep, can have such a profound impact on our lives. It's not just about feeling more rested, it's about enhancing our mental, emotional, and even spiritual well-being.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we're holistic beings, and every aspect of our lives is interconnected. When we nurture one area, it positively impacts all the others.
I love that. It's a message of hope and empowerment. We have the power to create positive change in our lives, one small step at a time.
Beautifully said.
Now, as we approach the end of our exploration today, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought, a provocative question to ponder. As they continue their own journey of habit formation, we've talked about the importance of external routines, the actions we take throughout the day, and we've explored the power of internal routines, the thoughts and beliefs that shape our reality. But what about the interplay between the two? How do our external actions influence our internal state, and vice versa? How can we create this synergistic relationship between our outer and inner worlds to really support our overall well-being?
That's a brilliant question, and it's one that I think is essential to contemplate as we strive to create a life that is both fulfilling and meaningful. It's about recognizing that we're not just physical beings, going through the motions of daily life, but also spiritual beings having a human experience.
Exactly. And finding that balance, that harmony between our physical and spiritual selves is where true well-being resides. I love that perspective. It invites us to go deeper, to explore the interconnectedness of our being, to recognize that true transformation happens on multiple levels.
Beautifully said.
So as you continue on your journey of building these new habits and routines, I encourage you to explore this interplay between your outer and inner worlds. Pay attention to how your actions influence your thoughts and emotions, and how your thoughts and emotions influence your actions.
It's a fascinating dance, and the more we understand it, the more empowered we become to create a life that is aligned with our deepest values and aspirations.
And that's a perfect note to transition to our final segment, where we'll explore some practical tips and strategies for putting all these ideas into action. Are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. I'm excited to share some actionable steps that our listeners can implement right away.
All right, so we've talked about the why. Routines give us structure. They give us all those benefits. We've talked about the what, those specific habits to really upgrade your morning, your midday, and your evening. Now the million-dollar question, how do we actually do it? How do we go from good intentions to lasting change?
That's the crux of it, isn't it? We can have all the knowledge in the world, but without those strategies, those good intentions, they just fizzle out.
Oh, it's so true.
But thankfully, there are some really proven techniques that can drastically increase our chances of success.
Okay, lay it on me. We've talked about habit stacking a few times.
Yes.
Can you give me a real-world example of how someone could use that to, say, start a gratitude practice? I know it's powerful, but sometimes finding the time can be tough.
Okay, so imagine this. You're a busy person, and mornings are hectic. But you already have this non-negotiable routine of making your morning coffee.
Yes, my coffee is essential.
So what if, while you're waiting for that coffee to brew, you take just 1 minute to reflect on 3 things that you're grateful for?
It's almost too easy. But I can see how attaching it to something you already do,
Yes.
without fail, could make it much more likely to stick.
Exactly.
You're sneaking in those positive vibes without having to overhaul your entire schedule.
Exactly. You're leveraging the power of association. So over time, making coffee becomes the cue for gratitude.
Yeah.
And it no longer feels like this extra chore.
Awesome. Now, another thing the podcast mentions is injecting some fun into those new habits. It sounds obvious, but we often turn self-improvement into such a slog.
We do.
So how do we take those things that feel like chores and make them something that we actually look forward to?
It's all about tapping into your intrinsic motivation. So if you're trying to get into a regular workout routine, but you dread the gym, maybe it's time to explore other activities that get you moving.
Okay.
Think dancing, hiking, rock climbing, or even just putting on some music and having a solo dance party in your living room.
Love it. It's about finding what lights you up, turning those have-tos into want-tos.
Exactly.
What else?
Tracking your progress can also be incredibly powerful. There's something so satisfying about seeing how far you've come. So whether it's a simple habit tracker app or a good old-fashioned journal, visually documenting your journey can keep you motivated and really boost your sense of accomplishment.
I am a big believer in the power of visualization. Sometimes we get so caught up in focusing on what we haven't achieved yet, instead of acknowledging how far we've already come.
Exactly. It's about celebrating those small wins.
Yeah.
And recognizing that progress is rarely linear.
Ooh, that's good.
There will be days when you crush it, and days when you slip up. And that's okay. The key is to be flexible and adaptable, knowing that life is full of these unexpected twists and turns.
Progress, not perfection. Right. I do hear that sometimes.
Yes.
How do we stay on track when those inevitable setbacks happen?
First, don't beat yourself up. It's so easy to fall into that trap of self-criticism when we miss a workout or indulge in that extra slice of cake. Instead, treat those slip-ups as valuable data points.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what happened? What were my triggers? What can I do differently next time? It's about learning and adapting, not giving up.
It's a journey, not a race. Give yourself grace.
Yes.
To stumble, to learn, to get back up. What's the final ingredient? That secret sauce that helps these changes really last.
Belief. It sounds simple, but it's so profound. Believing in yourself, your ability to change and grow, is the most powerful tool you have. When you doubt yourself, you're setting yourself up for failure. But when you believe in your capacity for transformation, you unlock a world of possibilities.
It's about cultivating that inner cheerleader, that voice that says, you've got this, even when things get tough.
Well, I'm feeling so inspired to put all of this into action. We covered a lot of ground today, from the science of habit formation to specific strategies for building those lasting routines. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Don't underestimate the power of those small, consistent actions. They are the building blocks of extraordinary change. And remember, this is a journey of self-discovery, a chance to explore who you are and who you're becoming.
Beautifully said. It's not just about changing our habits, it's about changing our lives, creating a reality that aligns with our deepest values and aspirations.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is, you already have everything you need within you. To make those changes happen, it's about tapping into your inner wisdom, your resilience, and your unwavering belief in your own potential. This has been such an inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your insights with us today. I know our listeners are going to walk away from this deep dive feeling empowered to create positive change in their own lives.
It's been my pleasure. Remember, the most important step is the next one. So take what resonates with you. Start small, be consistent, and most importantly, be kind to yourself along the way.
And if you're feeling stuck or you need a little extra support, remember there are some amazing resources out there, like online communities, support groups, and even coaches or therapists who specialize in habit formation. You don't have to do this alone.
That's right, we're all in this together, and sharing our journeys can be so motivating and supportive. So reach out, connect with others, and remember that you're capable of creating a life that is truly extraordinary.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep believing in the power of small changes to create big results.